Hi, when something goes wrong with DNA replication or with transcription and the base sequence gets changed, that's a mutation. And that's what we're talking about today. Things that cause mutations are called mutagens, and they include things like UV light, X-rays, and cigarette smoke. There are lots of things that can cause mutations, but it's important to remember that cells repair this kind of damage all of the time. And it's only occasionally that a mutation gets past the repair system. Somatic mutations occur in regular body cells, and these kinds of mutations can cause problems for organisms. Somatic cells are just regular body cells that aren't the eggs and sperm. Germ cell mutations are mutations that happen to egg and sperm cells. These kinds of mutations can be passed on to offspring. Another way to think of mutations is to consider how much information they change. Sometimes mutations happen to entire chromosomes, and sometimes they happen to one base in a sequence of bases. If whole chromosomes are affected, that's called a chromosomal alteration, and there are lots of different kinds. These kinds of mutations happen because chromosomes occasionally break. Cells are equipped for this and can repair breakage, but if something happens in between the chromosome breaking and the cell repairing the break, weird stuff can happen. If a whole chunk of a chromosome goes missing before the enzymes can fix it, that's called a deletion. Sometimes a chunk of a chromosome will get copied twice and both chunks stuck on the same chromosome. This is called a duplication. If a piece breaks off and then gets stuck back on upside down, that's called an inversion. If a piece from some other chromosome gets stuck in the wrong place, that's called an insertion. If two pieces from two different chromosomes switch places, that's called a translocation. Chromosomal alterations are a really big deal. They change a lot of information, and so they cause big changes in organisms. If chromosomal alterations happen to sperm and egg cells, that is the germ cells, then it's unlikely those sperm and egg cells are going to become organisms. The other kinds of mutations, the ones where a single base is changed, are called point mutations. Changing a single base in a sequence might make no change at all to the protein that's made. Remember, there's a lot of redundancy in the genetic code, and every amino acid has more than one codon that codes for it. If a mutation changes the DNA but doesn't change the amino acids that DNA codes for, we call that a silent mutation. There was a change in the DNA, but not what it said. Sometimes the change in the base sequence changes an amino acid. When that happens, it's called a missense mutation. A protein will still get made, but it may not be exactly the same as the protein that was originally intended. Sometimes a mutation will cause a stop codon to be placed too early in the sequence. We call this a nonsense mutation. The protein that gets made is going to be significantly smaller, and it's unlikely to be functional in the way it was intended. If you insert or delete a single base from a sequence, it's going to cause a shift in all the codons. We call this a frame shift mutation. For instance, if you had the sequence AAA, UUU, CCC, AAA, and you took out just one letter, for instance the third A, then suddenly all the codons are going to be different. You'll have AAU, UUC, CCA, AA. That's going to be a huge problem because every single amino acid is going to be wrong. Most mutations are harmful and may even cause death in the organism, but mutations are also a source of genetic diversity that can help organisms adapt to the ever-changing environmental conditions. What that means is that once in a very, 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 very long while, a mutation can actually be beneficial to the organism. So far, we haven't had any real-life Spider-Men, though. Here are some things to take away from today. 1. A mutation is a change in the DNA sequence. 2. It can affect whole chromosomes or just a single base. 3. It can cause no change or a huge change in the protein that's made. 4. Most mutations are harmful, but once in a very great while, a mutation is helpful. Stay awesome. I'll see you next time.